All right, so let me tell you about a story about how I died and came back to life. I was in LA and we were on kind of like something like a family reunion, something like that. And we were headed to Universal Studios. It was in August, so it was very hot. It was very hot and I was very dehydrated. We were on a bus right at this point, but I was very dehydrated. And feeling probably more dehydrated than I've ever felt in my life. But I was like, it's okay. When we get there, I'll just have some water and I'll be okay. But it didn't quite work out like that. So when we got there, we all get off the bus. There's some complications with our tickets, so we can't actually get inside Universal Studios. So we're just standing outside, like we're like the kids who are outside the club who can't get in. And the sun is beaming and I start feeling crazy. And what I mean by crazy is that I start to actually feel my life force leaving my body. And what starts to happen is that I start losing control of my body. It's almost like I turned into a wild animal. Even though I still had my consciousness, so I was still able to watch myself move. I wasn't actually able to control myself that well. And this became apparent to me because in conversations that I was having with people, or rather when people were trying to talk to me, I'll just cut them off and be like, hey, do you have any water? Like really abruptly and rudely. And they'll be like, no. And they the moment they expressed or were about to express that they didn't have water, I was I was I was walking away trying to find the next person to ask for water. So at this point, I could feel myself, I could feel my life force leaving my body. And because of that, I was in primal life or death survival mode and nothing mattered other than achieving the goal, which was getting water. So I walk up to a bunch of people. No one had water. And I didn't even try to I didn't even have the cognition, the mental cognition to be like, oh, thank you. It was just like, oh, do you have water? They would be like, sometimes I would walk away before they even said no. Like when they started searching for the water too long and my brain processed that they didn't have it, I just walked off. So nobody had water and I am slowly dying. So I go up to my uncle who's running the family reunion and I tell him, I'm like, I really need some water right now. And he's just like, I don't know, like I don't have any, blah blah blah. But I just expressed to him like, this is not a drill. I need water right this instant. And so we finally get into Universal Studios. We finally get in. And the moment we get in, I break off from the group and I try to find the nearest, like the just anywhere that can sell that's selling water. And at this point, it was even hard for me to see. So when I say my life force was leaving my body, I felt like my eyes were wide open, but my vision was as if I was squinting. It was the weirdest thing ever. And so I finally found some water, paid for it, and then walked into this concession store to get out of the sun. And the moment I start opening the water, I my body just completely goes numb. And the last thing I see is me holding the water, trying to open it while falling forward like this. And I just face plant into the ground and felt nothing. Like hard tile floor, felt nothing. Just looking at other people's feet. And so when I came to, people were just all around me like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And I was just like, water. I need water. So I get the water. All is well. They send the paramedics and they find out my iron was low because a story for another day. But I tell you that story to address the fact that we are animals from a baseline standpoint. We are animals with consciousness. And that animal will never leave us, but we are just conscious at the same time. So the thing that makes us different from birds or dogs is that we have the conscious ability to choose whether to act on our animalistic urges or not. If certain needs are met, like water and shelter and food. And so this is a phenomena that is basically called the human being versus the human animal. So the human animal is the urges, the laziness, all the things, the seeking of comfort, all of the things that we kind of have to control, all of the things that we have to stop ourselves from doing. The vices. The human animal wants the vices. The human animal wants to overeat. The human animal doesn't want to work out. The human animal wants to be comfortable all the time. The human animal doesn't have good emotional regulation because all it's thinking about is what it needs in that moment. The problem is most of us are privileged enough to be in a situation where we don't need everything immediate. I don't need water immediately right now because I've been hydrating myself all day. We don't need all these things that we desire, all these urges, these animalistic urges. We don't actually need them. And that's where consciousness comes in. That's where the human being comes in. That's where self-discipline comes in. Because when you do the things, when you say no to the human animal, and you do the things that don't necessarily feel good in the moment, you level up the human being that much more. And so our human experience is really our constant struggle between the human being and the human animal. And it's like a ratio. If you're controlled by your vices and you are allowing life to just happen to you, and you are not exercising discipline and all the other things that are needed to exercise in order to achieve mastery and achieve your goals, you are skewed more in the human animal side of things. And the human animal does not accomplish big things. The human animal is only wired to survive. It's not wired to thrive. Now, when you start delaying gratification and you start questioning your urges and you start thinking a little bit more ahead and doing things to benefit your future self, not just you in the moment, that is when you are pushing the ratio back towards the human being standpoint. And the human being is the side of you that is going to make all of your desires come true. So if you are skewed in the human animal, if you are trapped in the human animal and your consciousness is not is not changing your behaviors, then it's time to take a look in the mirror and really ask yourself, why is that? And one way I like to fuel the human being, make the human being stronger, is to meditate. And meditation is a very powerful tool because it forces you to sit still, and it forces you to view your thoughts outside of yourself. So when I meditate, I picture me watching me meditate. So when I meditate, I take myself out of my body and I picture myself watching me meditate. And what that does is it separates my consciousness from my body. And when you do that, you're able to look at everything that you think about, all your thoughts, outside of being in them. Because when you are in your thoughts, it is much harder to make rational decisions. It's much harder to make decisions for the human being. And again, all of this is only possible if you have sufficient food, which again, if you have internet, you probably do. If you have sufficient water, because again, this is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the end of the day, we need all the things that animals need to survive. But once we have those things, only our consciousness can take us to the next level of life. And so again, when you meditate, you're able to watch your thoughts happen rather than experience your thoughts. And when you watch your thoughts happen and you see how they change and how your emotion, you have one emotion and then it changes to another emotion and then it changes to another emotion and your thoughts just do all kinds of things, you realize that you aren't your thoughts and that you can actually step away from them, make decisions that are rational for your future self, and by doing so, powering the human being, giving more power to the human being. So, if you enjoyed today's podcast episode, like, subscribe, comment, and subscribe to the free newsletter. Link is in the description below. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace out. Stop being an animal.